Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Would you acknowledge yourself for showing up today, especially with all the stuff that's going on? Welcome to A Course in Miracles. Those of you watching online, welcome to A Course in Miracles. And just want to tell you that you don't have to believe it, you don't have to welcome it, you don't have to accept it. Some of it you're going to find hard to believe, some of it you're going to find startling. And if you apply the ideas, you will see that it works. But you're going to have some resistance to the ideas, some of the ideas, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't keep the ideas from being true just because I don't like it. Okay? Just because I have some resistance to something doesn't mean that it isn't true. We're going to be in the teachers, we're going to be on the workbook. In the workbook, we're going to be in lesson 135. It's on page 254. We're going to continue with the workbook lesson that is, if I defend myself, I'm attacked, from A Course in Miracles. And we're starting off, we've been dealing with the parts that's been talking about planning. And how many of you all like to make a lot of plans? All right, how successful have you been? Okay, I can tell by the response. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to be on paragraph 15, and it says, the mind engaged in planning for itself is occupied in setting up control of future happenings. So as soon as a person starts to plan, what they're trying to do is control what's going to happen in the future. So every time you plan, you're trying to control what's going to happen in the future. Whenever you plan, you're trying to control what's going to happen in the future. Don't you see that? That whenever you plan, you're trying to control what's going to happen in the future. Then we're going to be on lesson 135. It's on paragraph 15. It's the part of that lesson that deals with planning. And so it says, the mind engaged in planning for itself is occupied in setting up control of future happenings. Now, the reason why a person is trying to plan, it says, is because the mind doesn't think it's going to be provided for. Because you don't think you're going to be provided for unless you, what? Make your own provisions. So a person that's planning is a person who's trying to control what's going to happen in the future because they believe that, according to the Course in Miracles, that they're not going to be provided for by God, so they better make sure that they take care of themselves. Okay, so basically planning is a lack of faith. So there's some extra books up here that you can also follow along in case you actually want to study the Course in Miracles and kind of get some idea about what it's saying. Then it goes on and says, time becomes a future emphasis to be controlled by learning and experience obtained from past events and previous beliefs. So I'm going to control what's going to happen in the future by my previous learning and past events and previous beliefs. I'm getting ready to plan because I think God's not going to take care of me, and I'm going to make my plan based on everything that I've learned and experienced in the past. Then it goes on to say that's a mind that overlooks the present. So while a person is planning, they're overlooking the present because their planning is resting on the idea that the past taught them enough to let their own mind direct their future course. So anybody that's planning, they're usually never in the present. What they're doing is focusing on the past, what they learned in the past, trying to take care of themselves because they don't think the universe is going to do it. And so the truth, the Course says, is that whole process is resting on the idea that the past has taught you enough for you to be able to direct your future. So that's what that paragraph is saying. I'll say it again. When the mind is planning for itself, it's trying to control the future. It's trying to control the future because it doesn't think that spirit is going to take care of it. So then it starts to focus on what's going to happen in the future based on what it learned in the past. So the person really isn't looking at what's happening in their lives right now and what opportunities are available right now and what opportunities they have from spirit right now. They're busy trying to plan what's going to happen next week based on what they believe from their own past experiences because they don't really believe God's going to take care of them anyway. That was the first paragraph. Have a nice day. Any questions or comments about that? Anybody don't understand what we just heard?
All I can say is you bring the past to the present, you make it the future.
That's all you're going to do. That's why the plans never work.
Yeah.
Because the mind is engaged in planning for itself, which really isn't already, obviously because it's planning for itself at some level it doesn't believe that it's being taken care of, or there's something about the present moment that's not satisfying. So they go back to the drawing board, which is their own beliefs, their own past experiences, to try to plan what to do next. And so they just use the present to recreate the past again, and then they get the same experience again, but just in perhaps a different flavor. Where I used to hate working at job A, now I hate working at job B. where I used to hate the person I had a relationship with over here. Now I hate the person I got a relationship over there. You see what I'm saying? So actually, the truth is, all people do is use the present to recreate the past and live it again, and then use the present to recreate the past and live it again, and use the present to recreate the past and live it again, because they're not allowing themselves to receive new beliefs and new ideas and using them right now to create a new experience right now. Anybody else? Any questions and comments about the first paragraph? If not, I'll go to the next one. Okay, I'll go to the next one. The mind that plans is thus refusing to allow for change. So the mind that's planning is a mind that's refusing to allow their lives to change. Do you know that if you're planning all the time, it's really a reflection of your refusal to have change? Even though most people think they're planning because they want to have change, the truth is they're planning because they're refusing to have a change, according to the Course. That means what you've learned before becomes the basis of your future goals. So your future goals are based on the things you've learned and experienced before. So you think that your past experience is going to direct the choice of what's going to happen. I'm going to go by my past experience to make the choices of what's going to happen. And the mind that's planning for itself doesn't see that right here and right now is everything you need to guarantee a future that's totally different from your past. Right here, right now, is everything you need to guarantee a life that's totally different from the life you've had before. Right here, right now, is everything you need to have a brand new life and to move toward what you really want. Right here, right now, Raj, right now, Earl, right now is everything you need to have a life that's totally different from anything you've ever had before, that's absolutely fantastic and wonderful. Right here, right now. Then it goes on to say that the mind doesn't see that here and now is everything it needs to guarantee a future quite unlike the past, without a continuity of any old ideas and sick beliefs. So anticipation plays no part at all, because you're going to let present confidence direct the way. So a conscious being is letting their confidence in the present direct the way. A conscious being realizes that what's happening in their lives right here and right now is all they need to make a real change. A conscious being is not letting their past experiences and past beliefs still direct their actions. A conscious being is not letting what they've learned before be the basis for their goals in the future. And a conscious being is not refusing to allow change to happen by still making up their own plans based on their own beliefs and their old ideas and their old programming that they've gotten from the past and from the world. Any questions, any comments, any clarifications about that paragraph that you'd like to have? Yes.
Well, it's interesting because as you're saying this, I feel like my mind is literally like going on overload, like. And
that's
like,
good.
And like wants to like just explode. Like it
wants little pieces of Chris all over the room.
Yeah, like shut
just
down
sweep you up, but just sweep you up on out of the room.
Yeah,
Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it wants to like. It's like, can't compute.
Thank God. I hope I'm saying stuff that blow people's minds and it doesn't. What's that crickling noise?
That's me. I'm sorry, baby.
It's all right. That's all right. Just stop crickling for me. All right. I want to say something that makes people think. I want to say something that stops you in your tracks. I want to say something that makes you go, what the hell am I here for? I don't know what the heck he's talking about. That's how you know you're learning. That's how you know you're moving towards something new. That's how you know you're growing. You didn't come here to hear what you already believe. You came here to hear something different from what you believe. And for me to tell you something different from what you believe, you're going to have some resistance because it's different from what you believe. You see what I'm saying? So I'm glad that you're having resistance. We all need to have some freaking resistance. Because if what we already believe really was what really worked for us, all of us would be in a state of tranquility and total peace and centeredness right now. And if you don't feel complete peace and total fulfillment right now, you need to throw your beliefs out. You need to jump whatever it is that you've been thinking and believing. So don't come here to defend the old way you think. Come here to open your mind up to something you haven't heard before, because the way you already think, it hasn't worked. It hasn't brought you any lasting peace. So don't hang on to that. Don't cling to that. And I'm willing to answer any questions around that. Yeah, brother.
What's the difference between planning to recreate the past and then planning to reach a goal?
The difference between it is, number one is, if you're using your old belief system in any form or fashion, then you're just getting ready to repeat what you just learned. So I can have the goal of being happy, but if I'm going about it the way I've always gone about it, using the beliefs that I've always had, then I'm not really going toward anything differently. So it's nothing wrong with wanting to have a future different from the past. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have totally complete peace. The Course isn't saying that that's not an okay goal. What the Course is saying is the way we're going about it is wrong. The Course is saying that the mere fact that I'm planning means that I'm frightened. That I don't believe that I have a creator that I can go to that's looking out for me, that I could learn how to be in contact with, that would direct me in every way in my life to allow me to have the kind of joy and peace and be of service to spirit that would make my life fulfilling and everybody else's around me. See, that's what we keep leaving out. Not we, I don't know what you do, but what many people do is leave out God. They leave out the higher power. They're making their plan because they don't think that they have anything that's looking out for them except themselves. And so they just work based on their old belief system, and then they try to come up with a brand new plan, which is simply the same thing that they've done before. They're just trying to do it with a different person, different circumstance, and different location usually. And the Course is saying while you're focusing on the past without looking toward the future, you're overlooking the new way of looking at things or the guidance that you could be receiving in this moment right now. And so I'm missing what's available to me right now because I'm too busy planning based on what's happened in the past and my old beliefs. Does that make sense? It's not saying that you cannot have the happiness and the joy and the peace you want. What the Course in Miracles is trying to tell us is that we're going about it incorrectly. That we're going about it from a place of fear. We're going about it from a place of faithlessness. We're going about it in terms of how can I do it on my own? How can I figure out another way, an Earl super plan that's going to make him happy, that's going to leave out spirit, that's going to leave out God, that's going to leave out tuning into my higher power and my higher self. Make no doubt about it. The Course in Miracles is about healing our sense of separation from our Creator. It is not a book that's about manifesting my soulmate, manifesting a lot of money, manifesting the best job in my career, but it's funny how all those things tend to take care of themselves the once you put your focus on God and the truth. You know, but most people go for the echo and they don't go for the voice. You know, they're coming here to or study truth to get the car, to get the house, to get the money. The truth itself isn't the goal. God itself isn't the goal. A higher power isn't the goal. It's I'm going through a bunch of crap right now, and I want to get out of it right now. Can you tell me something that's going to get me out of it right now? And then as soon as I get out of it, I'm not going to focus any more attention on the truth until the next time I get in a bunch of crap. A conscious being is going, I want to heal any sense of separation I have with God so that I can communicate with my higher power and I can get my guidance and I'll know exactly what to do in every situation and circumstance in order to have the peace and joy that I say I want. One path is still about me doing it by myself, and the other path is about me surrendering and opening up to something greater than myself. We have a lot of blocks to hearing that voice. So the Course in Miracles is saying through the exercises in the workbook, through the text, I'm going to teach you how to let go of the blocks to keep you from being aware of how to tune into your higher power, into your happiness. But you're not going to do it without attention and study. You're not going to do it without spiritual practice. You're not going to do it without doing some personal study. That's what Spirit says. So if you think you're going to get it without ever putting any attention on your path, then you're sadly mistaken. Nothing's going to change. I'm a support, a supplement, a complement, something to help motivate to do that. But I could never substitute for your own personal spiritual practice, ever. So you can analyze all night long, but until you crack your path open and start applying the exercises, nothing's going to change. And it doesn't have to be the Course in Miracles. It can be something else. Everybody with me on that? Mm-hmm. That nothing is going to change until I change. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to change until I give something attention and study. That's when it's going to happen. Now, there's a part of me that doesn't love me, doesn't think I deserve to be happy, that's been taught I'm guilty and sinful, and that part of me is going to do everything in its power to keep me from actually focusing on the truth and actually focusing on the spiritual path. And I have to be aware of that part of myself so that it won't continue to self-sabotage. That's how I do it. Did that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yes.
So what about that belief that says that God helps those who help themselves?
You are helping yourself if you do the workbook and if you study and if you do your spiritual practice. So how is that contradictory to that statement?
Because the way that I take that is that like I need to like plan and.
Well, you're being told that that's wrong.
Okay.
That's not true. You carry out a plan. You carry out a plan that's coming from a wisdom greater than your own. You don't plan. You learn how to have a plan given to you that will work for Chris and that will bring Chris happiness. It didn't say that you're going to sit around and twiddle your thumb because it's saying that a healed mind doesn't plan. It says a healed mind carries out a plan. That's a big difference, Chris. So then, are you willing to remove the blocks in your mind that would keep you from hearing the divine plan for your life that's guaranteed to work? Or are you going to still insist on trying to make up your own personal plan on your own and trying to manipulate everyone around you to act out your plan and then hold a grievance against them if they don't do it right? See, how can you tell your plan from God's plan? Your plan brings no lasting satisfaction according to the Course, and God's plan is one that increases your satisfaction and your love and your self-fulfillment. See, our plan is, what can I get that's going to give my body more confident security? How can I get something that's going to make my life more comfortable? It has nothing to do with me learning how to communicate with the higher power that created me so that I can do what I came here to do, because I wasn't born by accident and just because somebody had sex one night. I'm here now, and now I got to make it on my own, listening to insane teachings that I learned from the world to try to make my life better, which is what most people are doing. They're trying to act out a system that does not work, period. And we know it doesn't work because we see the pain, we see the attack, we see the sickness, we see the disease, we see the separation. And so that's coming from our plan, the ego's plan. And the Course is saying there's another plan. There's a plan of love. And love has a plan. And if you allow yourself to be used for love's plan, then you'll have the kind of life you've always wanted. And it wants to be given to you. But you have to be willing to say, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe there's another way to look at things. Maybe I need to open my mind up. Maybe I need to let go of some of my ideas and beliefs so that this new way can come into my life. And that's what being here is about. It's about letting go of the blocks to the awareness of love that's already in you. All of us are looking for what's already in us. That's what's such a trip. Everybody's looking everywhere but where their happiness is located. But we think it's located in our plan because I don't have faith in God. I don't have faith in anything greater than myself. So that's why I think I got to take care of myself. If I don't take care of myself, who's going to take care of me? And that's what you say when you don't believe in anything greater than your own ego. And you're innocent. You're innocent. I'm innocent. See, I don't have a problem saying this about myself simply because I'm beginning to understand I really am loved and I really am innocent and I really am being guided. So I don't mind telling the truth about my selfish ego, my ignorant ego, my ego that doesn't know. I got a part of my mind that's crazy as hell, that doesn't really know what love is and attacks and is in competition and thinks I'm different from you and you're different from me and is so afraid that I'm planning based on what happened to me in the past that never worked out anyway, coming up with my latest plan for what I'm going to do. Right? So don't feel bad about that. Just know it doesn't work and you want to do something different now. And so what did this tell us? It didn't leave us up the creek now. The Course in Miracles said what? That if you were to allow yourself to be present for a minute, if you were to allow yourself to be in this now moment for a minute and don't think of your experience in terms of the past, but look at what's actually happening in your life right now and listening to the voice for truth within yourself right now, then your present confidence in what you are learning right now could give you a whole new future. If I was to start using what I'm learning right now, it would give me a future that's different from the past. So it's not leaving us up the creek, it's really giving us where the answer is located. If I'm ever going to be happy, if I'm ever going to get out of any situation that gives me any conflict, I'm going to have to do it now, and I'm going to have to do it through getting some new thoughts, beliefs right now, and getting guidance right now. The Course says simplicity is very difficult for twisted minds. So the more twisted and complicated your mind is, the more the simple answers that come from God don't make sense to you. Because if I'm all about me taking care of me and me doing it on my own, I don't want to hear something that's telling me that I can't take care of me and I can't do it on my own without spirit. So that part of my mind that believes it's autonomous and self-sufficient, they don't want to hear any of this. So I go ahead and admit to myself there's a part of me that doesn't want to hear any of this. And then I go ahead and read it anyway. And I go ahead and study it anyway. And I go ahead and do my workbook lesson every day anyway. Oh, okay, it's a bunch of crap. It don't really work. I don't understand it. That's some weird language. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to still do my workbook lesson today. But the secret ingredient is reaching your limit. The secret ingredient is you have to reach your limit. And when you reach your limit, then you go to the next level. But as long as you haven't reached your limit, you're going to keep trying your plan. And that's okay. Because the universe isn't interested in punishing you. It has infinite patience. But try to do it before you die. Just a little tip. You know, the body is temporary. Your spirit might last forever, but the you that's sitting in that chair doesn't. So you can you might want to get on it. Especially those of y'all my age. Okay. Now, all right, let's go further. Yes.
So I was reading in the book about patience and control.
Yes.
And my ex-husband called impatience Becky's. The flowers impatience, and called them Becky's because I'm very impatient.
Yeah, because yes.
So how does that go along with making plans? Because I am definitely, I'll go by just with it sometimes, but most of the time
well, it depends on how much you want to refuse to. Number one, it has to do with how much you're willing to refuse to allow for things to change. So if I'm refusing to allow for things to change, then I'm still going to continue on doing my own personal plan. And then the Course says that patience comes from an abundant willingness to do it, whatever it is. Like if I'm patient, it's because I have an abundant willingness to do it. Doesn't that make sense? If I'm patient about learning how to ride a bike, it just means that I have an abundant willingness to ride a bike. So I'm going to keep on getting on the bike over and over again until I learn how to ride the bike. And somebody would say you're being patient, but you would say, no, I really just have an abundant willingness and I really want to learn how to ride a bike. See what I'm saying? And then the Course also says that patience comes from being certain of the outcome. So the more certain you are about how things are going to turn out, the more patient you are in the process. So impatience, from a Course in Miracles perspective, would be me not having faith in how it's going to turn out. And that's why I'm so anxious. So it's not coming from I have so much faith in what's going to happen. Actually, the anxiousness is coming from my not being certain about how it's going to turn out. So I feel like I got to try to manipulate it and make it happen as quick as I possibly can. So now I got all these different plans I'm doing because I'm not sure if it's really going to turn out the way I want it to turn out. But if I am sure it's going to turn out the way I want it to turn out, then I'll be patient. If you tell me you're going to pick me up at 1:30, I don't get impatient until after 1:30. Mm-hmm. Because after 1:30, I'm wondering, well, are you going to get here or not? Mm-hmm. But before 1:30, I'll sit back and read, I'll kick back. But why? Because you're certain at that point that 1:30 you're going to be picked up. So impatience is coming from not being certain of the outcome. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have more patience, then you must become more certain about what it is you want and the outcome of it. And if I'm not trying to do it by myself, if I'm really tuning into higher power, God, then I'm going to have more patience. Because I know that the outcome isn't just up to me, that I've tapped into something greater than me. And that's why books like A Course in Miracles will not make sense, I don't believe, until you start including the idea of a higher power. You're going to keep hearing me say that because it will not make sense as long as you're trying to do it on your own. It will sound scary, right? And so that's why the Course in Miracles made me aware I didn't really even believe in God. I was just talking a lot of lip service when I said I believed in God. I was just like, you know, you ask the average person, you believe in something? You believe in a higher power? Yeah! Then why are you so scared? Why are you so worried about everything then? What? Yeah, why are you so worried? If you feel like you're in touch with the greatest power that ever is, that's in control of everything, that's the one that's in charge of all things, that force that's greater than anything we can imagine, and you're saying you are tapped into it, why are you worried? And the Course in Miracles answers that. It says fear means you're dependent on your own self, separate from God. Fear means you think it's up to you to handle it by yourself. Mm-hmm. So fear is a good way to get in touch with what you really believe versus what you think you believe. So do you see why classes like this are difficult for people to attend and to do? Why? Who can tell me why a class like this is hell for the average person?
Because you have to relinquish control.
You have to relinquish your personal sense of control. Adina?
I was just saying, so I guess for what happened for me is when the fear comes up,
mm-hmm.
then you know that you're feeling separate from being fully supported.
Right.
So in that moment, if the Holy Spirit and say, I'm in fear, I know this isn't real, I know this isn't true, I surrender these fears at your feet, rather than the whole, you know, because it's...
rather than the whole what?
Well, rather than going into it or trying to soothe your, you know, whatever past patterns that you've had, if you're making the ego more empowered if you surrender it on the outside rather than going straight into spirit immediately, right?
Right, but you don't. But what you do is, and that's right along what you're saying. What you would do is you would fully feel what you're feeling and not pretend that you don't feel it, and don't sweep it under the rug and pretend you don't feel it and just stuff it and pretend you don't feel it. What you do is you acknowledge what you feel without judging yourself, without judging it, without identifying with it, and without using it to guide you. So right now I'm afraid, I admit that I'm afraid, I'm feeling afraid, I admit that I'm afraid, I'm feeling afraid, I admit that I'm afraid, I'm feeling afraid, I admit that I'm afraid. That's how I feel right now. Then the next level would be, and I'm giving this situation all the meaning that it has for me. I'm the one that's creating the way that I'm feeling in this situation. Because my peace is not going to come from the situation being solved anyway. That's the trick, is to believe that when the situation is changed, somehow you're going to have peace. Is the trick, is to believe when the outer situation is changed, then you're going to have peace. Is the trick, is to believe that if you get the person to speak or act differently, or if you get the circumstance to change, then you're going to be happy. The answer is to realize that you're the one that's making yourself feel the way about You're the one that's making yourself feel the way you're feeling about what's happening, Earl. You see what I'm saying, Adina? First I admit I'm afraid. Then I admit I'm the one that's making me afraid. Why? Because I'm the one that's giving everything that's happening the meaning that it's having for me. Then, and this is the hardest part for most people, to go to the next stage and say, I'm actually grateful. I'm actually grateful that I have the ability to create my reality in the way that I see my reality. I'm grateful that I'm not a victim of this situation. I'm grateful that it's my thoughts that are creating the way that I feel. That's the third step. Then the fourth step is to say, and I am still as God created me. I am still powerful, I am still loved, I am still lovable, and I am still spirit. I am an infinite being, regardless of what I think about myself, regardless of what I tell myself. That's the four-step process of getting out of anything that's bothering you. But how many people are trying to remember the four-step process that I just shared? You follow what I'm saying? See, you have to stalk your ego. See, the ego would be the part of your mind that would hear a four-step process and say, let me not jot down the four-step process. Let me not remember what he just said. Let me not try to apply that right now. The ego would be the part of you that zoned out as soon as I started saying what it was. Actually started thinking about what your problem is while the answer was being given to you. And the Course says, you know why people do that? It says, because I didn't give them the answer that they made up and that they were looking for already. The Course in Miracles says people don't even hear the answer that you're giving them until you tell them who other than themselves has to change and what other than themselves has to change before their problem is solved. So if you say you got a problem and I say you're it, that's not what the ego wants to hear. It wants to say, I got a problem with my husband. Tell me what my husband needs to do different. Tell me what I need to tell my husband. Tell me how I need to get him to come to this class. Those are the answers the ego mind hears. Yeah. Or if I say what you've already thought of. So I really made up the answer. I'm looking for you to say the answer that I made up. You didn't say the answer that I made up, so I didn't hear what you said. Take it another level. I like to suffer. So since I like to suffer because I think I'm a crappy person, because my mama told me I was crappy, my daddy told me I was crappy, my boyfriends and girlfriends told me I was crappy, my teacher told me I'd never make it, so I believe I'm not worthy. So I think I need to suffer because I'm a guilty bad person. You don't know what I've done. I'm guilty. So I need to suffer. I'm a sinner. I'm guilty. So suffering, the easiest way to suffer would be to give myself hellacious situations and drama-filled situations, constantly non-stop, broken into by periods in which I watch the Oscars. Or I go for a walk in the park, or I go dancing. So a person who has decided to punish themselves as a way of healing themselves is totally uninterested in answers that have to do with innocence, you love, no matter what, and you deserve to be happy. They're not going to hear it. So if you're a person that thinks you need to suffer, you won't hear it. Because I'm saying you don't deserve to suffer. None of us deserve to suffer. None of you deserve to suffer. Period. Period. For no reason do you deserve to suffer. The most you deserve is loving correction if you're doing something that's harmful to yourself or what appears to be somebody else. Okay, I'm gonna answer one more, then I'm gonna go further. You had another question, Adina?
Just, the programming from a lot of the religions, I just had a breakthrough today.
Mhm.
That I would get to all through the steps,
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2.
Okay.
And then 3,
Mm-hmm.
holy hell.
Holy hell. Now, what was about 3 that was the challenge?
Well, one is that I would go into the guilt of the fact that I was in unawareness for that moment, or insanity for that moment of my wrong perception.
There you go.
And so then I would go into the whole, I needed to be persecuted.
Right.
So I would have to tell on myself for a thought that I had, or the guilt that it is, right? I'm like feeling it, right? I'm getting it all out.
Yes.
And then it would just make me feel more like shit.
Uh-huh.
And then it would resolve, and then, with relationship or with work or with anything else, right? I just had this huge thing where I took a month off to take care of myself. And then this guilt when the worker that worked for me was angry that she was doing her job and that I took time off to take care of myself because she didn't have time off for herself in the way that she wanted. So I felt so guilty that I should be working harder than everybody.
Okay.
In,
One of the best ways to get rid of feelings of guilt like that is that when you're certain of your purpose and you're certain your purpose is the right purpose and you're certain that your purpose is coming from your heart, then no one can make you feel guilty about what you've decided to do. So the guilt really came from your not being clear about what your own purpose was. If you really felt like you deserved to do what you did, which was to take a month off, then you would have realized you were not responsible for your workers' perception and attitude. You wouldn't have bought into that for 1 second. So what she made you aware of was you yourself was not feeling innocent about taking off for a month.
it's true, I don't feel innocent about mostly anything. I realize with everything that I've been programmed, I'm like, I just realized that my program made me feel like I needed to be persecuted. And so in a way of when self-sabotaging, that's what we're doing. We're
That's exactly right. Right, that's what I'm saying.
So then that's why the
Suffering.
world around me is reflecting this persecution.
There you
because
go.
inside I
There
felt
you
that
go.
and I
There
felt
you go.
guilty.
That's right.
Totally
That's
unaware.
right. Now all you have to do is remember that that's true in every situation, and then you really have won today. That there is no situation that process you just mentioned is not true. No matter what you're making yourself feel guilty about. The world is going to always mirror back to you your core beliefs about yourself. That's why you can't trust your perception. Your perception only witnesses back to you that which you believe. So if you say something is true just because you see it, you are blind. The Course defines a blind person as a person who believes just what their physical eyes and their physical beliefs tell them. Because your physical senses are only witnessing to your subconscious beliefs. I want you to hear that. What you are experiencing in your physical world is a reflection of the beliefs you have consciously and unconsciously. No one's doing anything to you. And you are not doing anything to anyone. That's the truth. Now, if you want to suffer, you'll draw somebody that attacks you. If you want to feel guilty, you'll draw perpetrators and you'll draw people who will appear to attack you. But that's coming from your own subconscious sense of separation from love, truth, and God. Which, hallelujah, hallelujah! That means that I am not a victim. It means I can have it changed. It means I don't have to keep going through what I've been going through, because if my happiness depended on y'all, then I'd be up the creek. If your happiness depended on changing me, you had a problem. Be glad that nobody's doing anything to you, but you're doing it to yourself through your own beliefs and your own thinking. It means you got a way out. It means you could change lack to abundance. It means you could change sickness to health. It means you could change not having a career or what you're doing in the world that satisfies you to the most satisfying thing you could ever be doing in your life if it's your own mind. Unless you lazy as hell, Earl. Now, if you're lazy as hell, you're not going to want to do any of it. But why work 40 hours a week doing something you hate when you could spend 5 minutes a day working on your consciousness and change your whole life? Which one is harder? People will go for the working 40 hours a week doing what the hell they don't want to do every time. But you said spend an hour a day in meditation, an hour a day doing your workbook lesson and studying, get off by yourself in the morning and do a little praying and doing a little centering. I ain't got time for that. You know, But let Texas play Alabama, I got plenty time. And I'll tell you the stats, I'll tell you the statistics, I'll tell you everything about that team and everybody on that team. But say, I give everything I see all the meaning it has for me, I can't remember that. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. What? I put my attention into that which I value.
Yeah.
I put my attention into what I really value, and I don't value me as much as I do the Broncos. I take my last dime to get a Bronco ticket, but I won't take my last dime to buy a Course in Miracles book. And then what do I get? The life that you get when you don't focus on the truth. One that's ups and downs and fears and guilt and don't know what's going to happen and hate your job. That is not by accident, Earl. Notice I keep calling my name. I call my name because I know that's what this is for. That I'm teaching what I need to learn. I said that over and over again. Because I don't hear this kind of stuff in the world every day. So if I don't make sure I hear it, I'll never hear it. And that's why you're coming, so you can hear it. So you can hear something different from what you hear out in the world. But you got to be proactive. And you are proactive. That's why you showed up today. Because you do want to change. I'm proud to know you. But I'll piss you off. Yeah, the part of you that doesn't want to hear this, it don't like me. The part of you that believes you're guilty and sinful and you don't deserve to be happy, don't like me. What you talking about? But I'm going to keep telling you you're deserving, and I'm going to keep telling you that you're powerful, and I'm going to keep telling you that you're lovable as long as I have breath in this body. Whether I ever see you again or not. I'm not going to change what I'm saying to you.
Thank you.
I'm not, because you are not your ego. You're not the part of you that doesn't love you. You're not the part of you that can't focus. That's not you. That's the part of you that hates you, that doesn't love you, that thinks you don't deserve to be happy. That's the part that still believes in the story that somebody told you about yourself that's not true. And I'm not going to support it at all. So, because I don't want nobody supporting mine. So what did we just hear? Right now, you have everything you need to change your future. Because right now, you have the truth. Right now, you have the truth in a ton of different forms. Way of Mastery, Course in Miracles, Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Weaver. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. We're so blessed. We're ridiculously blessed. God, we're blessed. Wow, I'm so blessed. Next paragraph. Okay, here we go. Like I said, this is another episode of As the Black Man Rants. I got to put juice in my energy because I'm ready for a change in my life. Because y'all going to think I'm going crazy over the next few weeks. Because I know that every time I want to change, I have to be the one that allow it. I wish you could make it somebody else. And, okay, if you really can only have patience, if you are certain of the outcome, if you have the desire to learn how to forgive and to see things correctly so that you can keep your peace, you are guaranteed success. Because the steps to being able to do that are in the Course in Miracles and other books. Now, if your biggest goal is for you to be the president of Exxon, you're going to probably always be impatient and scared. You follow what I'm saying? Because that seems to be something way beyond your ability to have anything to do with necessarily. So again, ask yourself, are your goals that you're setting goals that will keep you afraid and impatient? Because you're making your happiness dependent on something outside yourself that you're trying to build in order to feel good and in order to provide for yourself. You'll probably always feel some sense of unhappiness or fear. But if I say that my goal is to get in touch with my guidance and to get rid of the blocks to hearing my guidance, I'm guaranteed to succeed because at that point the entire universe and spirit is right behind you, backing you every step of the way. But the universe is not going to support you in believing you're self-sufficient. Spirit is not going to support you in believing you're doing it on your own. That's contrary to the truth. So the more you want to do it on your own, the more it will look like you have no support. Because the whole idea of doing it on my own, what? It means I'm doing it by myself. So that whole attitude of I've got to do it creates a reality where it looks like you have to do it. The idea that I have support, and most of all, I'm trying to do something beyond what I think I can do by myself, the Course in Miracles says is a guarantee that you will no longer be alone because you're reaching for things you can't do alone, so therefore you're never alone. So if I'm looking, so let me give you an example. If I say my goal is to love each and every one of you equally, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to love each and every one of you equally. So by even setting a goal like that means I've got to have help. I've got to have something greater than myself operating. So go for goals that are bigger than things you think you can do by yourself so that you open yourself up to support and help from Spirit. Think about it. How many of my goals are just self-absorption, which means just about my own personal interest and happiness? And how many of my goals are about how can I do things that's going to benefit you as well as me? That's the difference between a spiritual goal and an ego goal. A friend of mine was in the house that got crushed during the mudslide. His father was trapped in the house in a little crawl space like 3 feet. The neighbors jumped on the house, even though it was dangerous to them, with axes and saws to get him out of that little space before he died. He couldn't get out by himself. But suppose he said, "No, I've got to do this by myself. How can I get out of here by myself, Holy Spirit?" He got out because he had what? Support. He had help beyond what he could do. That's a great metaphor, y'all. Whatever you think you're going through right now, don't be the guy in the house that's saying, "Don't help me, I got to do it by myself." But be willing to say, "Hey, whatever's beyond me that can help me in this situation, I'm totally open to it right now. And I'm going to cooperate. If y'all say get over to the corner so that the axe don't hit me, I'm going to get over in the corner so the axe doesn't hit me so you can let me out." And that's what the Course is doing for us. It's telling us, look here, let me tell you how to have what you want. But you got to get over in the corner. Like my mama used to say, "Hey, boy, just sit down over in the corner until I get through doing this and I'll take care of it. Just sit down." And that's what the Course in Miracles is telling us. Sit your butt down for a minute so I can do something for you. But we like the little kid to go, "No, I got to do it by myself because I'm an adult kid." Let the universe do something for you. Let God do something for you.
Amen.
Let the higher power do something for you. I can tell that's good news. Okay, I'm going to go further. I don't want to just answer questions and then keep going further in the thing. All right, you ready for the next paragraph? You ready for the next paragraph?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let me know somebody out there. Are you out there?
Yes.
All right. Say, "Go to hell, ego."
Go to hell,
That's right. You're not going to stop me. My fear shall not prevail. My fear shall not prevail. Scare it away. Be like Dracula. You know what you do with Dracula? You put some light on Dracula. Dracula gone. Put some light on your ego Dracula, your fear Dracula, your separation Dracula. The truth is the light. The truth is the light. Right. This is the next paragraph. Oh, God, I love this stuff, even though it drives me crazy sometimes.
So Earl, I have one more question.
I really want to go forward.
Okay.
I really want to go forward. I promise people that I'm going to go forward in material and answer questions and go forward in material. It says the man is planning for himself is refusing to change, right? So the next paragraph says, defenses are the plans you undertake to make against the truth. I'll say it again. Defenses are the plans you undertake to make against the truth. Their aim is to select what you approve and disregard what you consider incompatible with your beliefs about reality. So let me break that down because it's so simple. As you're listening to me, you're selecting what I say that you approve of, and you are probably disregarding what you consider to be incompatible with your beliefs. Is that a fair assessment? That as you're listening to me, you are selecting. He says that's what defensiveness is. It means that you select what you approve of, but you disregard what's incompatible with what you believe. Now notice that that's pretty much that's not a really healthy way to change. Because just because you don't believe something doesn't mean it's not true. Just because you don't believe something doesn't mean it's not true. Just because you don't believe something doesn't mean it's not true. So if you're disregarding everything just because you don't believe it, you might be disregarding the very thing that would change your life. Then it goes on to say, yet what remains is meaningless. I love that. Indeed, because it's your reality that's the threat which your defenses would attack, obscure, take apart, and crucify. So the Course just said to us that after we get through, we're unhappy, right? And then we're believing our beliefs, regardless. Even though we're miserable, we still want to hang on to our beliefs. He says, and then we disregard everything that's not our beliefs, that might be the truth. He says, and what you're left with is what's meaningless. You're left with something that's really meaningless. It's not really making a real difference because you're left with what you already believe, and what you already believe is what's creating what you're thinking you want to change and you're not happy about. So you end up with crucifying the truth, not hearing the truth, not letting the truth in. Then it says, what would you not accept? And this is a great, great paragraph. I invite you to tune in on this paragraph. It's an awesome paragraph. It says, what could you not accept if you but knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good. I'll say that one more time. What could you accept if you knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? What couldn't you accept that's happened to you today if you could really accept that everything that's ever happened to you, everything that's happening to you right now, and everything that's going to happen to you in the future is gently being planned by one whose only purpose is your good? What wouldn't you accept? What couldn't you accept if you really believed that everything that's happening to you is planned by one whose only purpose is your good? What is it about your life that you couldn't accept if you really accepted that there's nothing that's happening in your life that's ultimately not for your greater good? I wouldn't be upset about anything that's happening to me. If I really knew that everything that was happening in my life was being planned by something that was going to help me have everything that would ever allow me to experience joy within myself, then I would be grateful for the argument. I would be grateful for the thing that the job I didn't get. I'd be grateful that I had a flat. I'd be grateful that I had a misunderstanding with my child. I'd be grateful for I would allow everything in my life, because I would see it as all part of a greater plan for my good. So the reason why I'm miserable is because I believe that there are things that are happening to me that are not for my own good. The reason why I'm unhappy is I believe that there's something that's happening to me. I believe breaking up with that person was not good for me. But if I knew that breaking up with that person was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because that's going to allow something even greater to come into my life, that's even greater happiness, how upset would I be about it? If I lost my job, but I was going to end up doing the thing that I've always wanted to do my whole life and didn't even know it, or I was going to have something that was better than anything I've ever had in my career, how upset would I be about being laid off? If I had something wrong with my leg and I was upset about it, and I went to the doctor, and because they were checking out my leg, they found out that there was something going on in my heart, that had I not found it out at that moment, I could have had a heart attack and died. I'd be saying, boy, I'm so glad I had that pain in my leg that took me to the doctor. If you realize that every single thing that's ever happened to you was for your own best interest, how upset would you be about your past? How upset would you be about anything you're upset about right now? That's the question. What would you not accept if you knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? He says, perhaps you've misunderstood God's plan, but God would never offer pain to you. Love would never offer pain to you. God would never offer pain to you. God would never offer pain to you. God would never offer pain to you. Love would never offer pain to you. The truth would never offer pain to you. The truth would never offer pain to you, but your defenses, which he says our plans, did not let you see God's loving blessing shine in every step you ever took. While you were making plans for death, God was leading you to eternal life. So if I wanted to feel better today, I should tell myself, even my employee getting upset about me taking a vacation, that was for my own best interest. Even though I lost my job, that was for my own best interest. I got $5 in my pocket to my name. That's for my own best interest. I don't understand how that's for my own best interest, but it's obviously for my own best interest, because my life is being planned by something whose only purpose is my growth and my good. That's how a conscious being begins to describe their experience even if they don't believe it. So I'm not saying you need to believe it. I'm saying it's the truth, whether you believe it or not. It's true that everything that's happening in your life right now is going to be a blessing for you. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's the truth. But guess what? If you did believe it, wouldn't you feel a lot better?
Yes.
If you just for a second thought that whatever's happening in my life right now is for my own best interest, you would feel better right now. Right now. But if you want to hold grievances against yourself, if you hate yourself, if you want to punish yourself, you can't think like this. Because it will make you feel better, heavens forbid. That you'd actually feel better. Because you're busy punishing yourself. Because all it would take is a new interpretation, which is what? My present trust in my Creator. That's what's happening. That everything that's happening in my life right now is part of this greater plan for my good that I don't understand in its entirety right now. And so I'm going to study and do my spiritual practice so that I can learn how to see this correctly so I won't make myself so miserable all the time. Because you're entitled to miracles. And the Course in Miracles says a miracle is a state of completion and abundance. That a miracle is a state of completion and abundance, no lack in any kind of way. And that's what you deserve. And if you want to believe that that's what you deserve, would you be willing to acknowledge yourself right now and being willing to say, I think I deserve that, even if I don't understand it completely, I believe I deserve that. Woo! Lord have mercy. All right, we're going to do the financial expression of appreciation right now. Thank you so much. As a full-time teacher, this stuff, I appreciate your generosity. Those of you on the internet, thank you so much for your financial expressions of appreciation. And you can go to my website, earlpurdy.com, and you can also make a donation. I appreciate that. If you want one-on-one personal sessions where we take everything about your life right now and I bring this truth to it so you can have another way of looking at it and change it, I'm available for clarity sessions. Go to my website, and it describes it completely. And I also use astrology and numerology for those who are open to it, because spirit communicates through everything. Those of you wondering how it relates to the Course. Spirit uses everything. So this is available to you. There are no original problems. There are no original problems. Your problem isn't original. There's an answer. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I video these classes and then I send them out to my email list as a link so that you can watch them. If you're not on the contact list, but you would like to receive links to the Way of Mastery class and the Course in Miracles class, make sure you sign the contact list before you leave.
And you're on Facebook.
I'm also on Facebook. I'm everywhere. I'm stalking you. I'm outside your window. I'm everywhere. Where's my pen? Okay. Anybody got one I could use for a minute? Is there anyone that wants to sign it so they can get there it is. So they can also receive the class, so they can hear what was said over again, so that they can use it. This is an opportunity. Okay. Here's the answer. Your present trust in the truth, your present trust in God, if you got the book, your present trust in God is the defense that promises a future undisturbed, without a trace of sorrow, and with joy that constantly increases. I'll say it again. Your present trust in God, Earl, your present trust in the truth, you're continuing to focus on the truth, you're continuing to focus on the Creator, is the defense. Thank you so much for sharing, y'all, because I have to eat just like y'all and have a house and all that stuff. So thank you for actually understanding I'm just like you also. I really appreciate that, those of you who do. Your present trust in God is a defense that promises a future undisturbed, without a trace of sorrow, with a joy that constantly increases. I'll say it again. Earl, your present trust in God is a defense that promises a future undisturbed, without a trace of sorrow, and with joy that constantly increases as this life becomes a holy instant set in time, but heeding only immortality. Let no defenses, let none of your old plans. The Course defines a defense as a plan. your old plan. It says, let none of your defenses, let none of your plans but your present trust direct your future. What does that mean? I'm going to take all of my trust, I'm going to put it in the truth that I'm learning right now. I'm going to put my trust in these new ideas that I'm learning, this new connection to source, and I'm going to stop putting my trust in the things that I've learned in the past from the world. I'm no longer going to see myself as a victim. I'm no longer going to use my story, to poor black men that grew up in the South during the 60s, that had a daddy that had a lot of issues, and that's why nothing goes right. For me, you got your story too, don't you? The one that you use to keep you from ever really enjoying your life. Why don't we retire it? Would y'all be willing to kind of like retire your story now? I didn't get the education. I've had lovers that were like Frankenstein. You know, it's time to let it go. How many of you are noticing that you feel a little weary? You feel a little sleepy. You feel that's your ego. And that's how you know this is true, because it says that that's going to happen when the truth starts to come. The part of us that's not ready to change yet, that thinks we don't deserve this kind of happiness that I'm talking about, it's going to try to take you out. And that's okay, because it's not going to win. We're not going to let that part win, are we?
Nope.
We're not going to continue to give in to our old habits over and over again, right?
Right.
Right? We have each other, don't we?
Yeah.
And we're entitled to miracles. We're entitled to love. We're entitled to happiness. So I'm going to end this today on one question that I'm going to say over and over again for about a minute till you go out. And let's send out some light and joy and love to our brothers and sisters in the parts of this county, in this area that's dealing with the flood stuff right now. How would you feel if that were you going through that? So what do? I want to give them to the Holy Spirit. I want to ask the Holy Spirit if there's anything for me to do, to say, to express, and then look within myself and do the thing that I'm led to do in my heart. But ask, is there anything that I need to do, Spirit, in this situation? Because this is me. These are my brothers and sisters. These people are part of me. We're one. So if I'm not going to physically do anything, at the very least, I can mentally, emotionally, and spiritually pray for them to recognize the support from God that's already there. So here's the question. I want you to think about anything in your life right now that you're using to keep you from feeling happy. Any situation you've been concerned about, anything that you've been worried about, anything that's making you feel anxious. It's what you were thinking about before you got here. And then say to yourself, I want you to feel it completely. Don't pretend that you don't feel it. If you're mad at somebody, say, I'm mad. If you're worried about something, say to yourself, I feel worried. I feel concerned right now. Then the next thing you do is say, I'm giving this all the meaning that it has for me. I'm giving this all the meaning that it has for me. I'm creating my experience of this. I'm creating my experience of this. I created this. I created this. I created this. I created my perception of this. I'm creating my experience of this. I'm not a victim 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 of this. Tell yourself. Then tell yourself, I thank my Creator for its gifts to me. I'm thankful that I give everything I see all the meaning for me. I'm grateful that I create my experience. I'm grateful that I create my reality. I'm grateful that I'm not a victim. I'm grateful that I can change this through the God power within me. I'm grateful. Which might be just the opposite of what you want to tell yourself about the thing that you're upset about. And then the last but not least, the Course in Miracles say, tell yourself this. I am still as God created me. I am still as God created me. Say what? I am still as God created. And that means I am still as love created me. I am still as love created me. I am still as God created me. That's the 4-step process of release. And you do it over and over and over and over and over and over until you feel some sense of relief. And if you're not feeling relief, you haven't done it enough and you haven't said it enough to yourself. You say it 100 times, 200 times, if that's what it takes for you to feel more peace inside of yourself. Because when you feel the peace inside of yourself, you're going to see peace in your physical world. That's the way it works. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for helping me remember. Thanks for being in my experience. Thanks for being the blessing that you are. You're awesome. You're awesome.